Creating a theme in Kickstart is a lot like creating a component. The only difference really is that we're going to be creating it in a different directory, and we're also going to be starting with an existing file for that theme. I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. First, we started the same way as we did with the component by actually creating an empty repository on GitHub. It's empty except for this README file that you can initiate it with. I'm going to need to actually bring in this submodule. And it's important to be in, I'm going to make another window for this one. It's important to be in lib/sas themes. So there's some themes that I've already created. So now that we have the theme there, you can see it right here, bright theme. Let me actually look in that directory. So we have our README MD file. Of course, we need an actual SAS file to provide the theme. To do this, we're just going to copy from the core default theme. And I'm going to pull from the docs. There's just a nice handy one-liner that we can use here. That's going to copy from the default theme into our new theme. All we need to do is change the word my theme to, of course, the theme that we're using. So I'm going to, in the root of the project, so we're not in lib/sas themes anymore, just to the root of the project, I'm going to copy in the default theme, and I just need to change my theme to bright theme. So now when I look in there, in bright theme, oops, you'll see that we have that theme.sas file. So now that that's hooked up, I also want to start using that theme, because as you can see right now, I'm just using this default one. So let's open up lib/sas style, and we're going to change this default to bright theme. Now that won't look like much because, again, we just copied the default theme, so by definition it should look exactly the same. But instead of taking this whole video to create an entire theme, I'll just show you how this works. So let's open up in bright theme, the actual theme file. As you can see, we have all these kind of color variables. We have whites and grays and blacks. So let's change red to something else. So red's actually going to look green. I had to actually restart my server in order to see this change. Hopefully we can get that fixed in future versions so that it can just constantly update while you're working on your theme. But now you can see that the red is this unusual kind of green color here. Other things you want to change, I've tried to keep most of the important things towards the top of the file so you don't have to go through this whole thing to make a theme. Really, you can just use, just change the font here. And of course you want to change it in the heading font family and default font family. And there's tons of fonts on Google Web Fonts that are free to use. Also, changing the colors is pretty important. Now, if you want to change an actual component, part of the core, the way to do that in a theme is to, let's say we're going to change the button and we want to make sure that they don't have rounded corners. Button should be in here somewhere. I'm just going to look for it. There's our buttons. So the button mixin is pulling in the core's button default, and there's two things we can do here. Is we can either say to heck with the core and simply not pull in those styles, and then you'll see that the buttons pretty much will lose all styling. There we go, that time it refreshed. So now they just have these kind of colored backgrounds, and they don't actually have the padding and the button radii. But I kind of like the button styles. All I want to do is get rid of that border radius. So I'll put button default back in there, and I'm just going to say border radius 0. Now, by the way, you'll notice that sometimes people will do WebKit dash border radius. I don't have to do these prefixes because in the node.js version of Kickstart, there's a thing called auto prefixer which will automatically add those prefixes. So I only have to say border radius 0, and I only have to do that once. So I'm going to save that, And when we go back here, I reverted this to the regular buttons, but in a second, once this is done, we should see these buttons have sharp corners. And there it is. So you can see that gives me a lot of versatility to both create a theme that is uniquely my own, but I don't have to start over from scratch. I can take the core stylings and then write on top of them. And that's pretty much all that it takes to create a theme in Kickstart. Enjoy.